Yeah. Hello there. So I went back to therapy after not doing it for a couple years in February. And this is the first time I've had a chance to choose my own therapist, because before, the avenues that I went through, they provide you one, and it would be probably more annoying than not to have to get a new one. So, getting to choose my own therapist was wonderful, because I could really figure out what their style was. I'm happy to have found the person that I have. She's a wonderful lady, and she doesn't sit there and tell me stuff. She kind of sits and waits for me to see things for myself. And luckily, I guess, I'm also a pretty intuitive person when it comes to seeing things for what they are, for the most part. Obviously, I'm going to therapy, so I'm not seeing everything perfectly, but there you go. And most of the time when we have a session, I have something that's happened that I want to talk about, or things that are bothering me specifically. But every now and then, there's those couple sessions that I've had where I walk into it feeling like I have nothing to talk about. And in that moment, in branching out from what the immediate problem is, or something that I have to talk down to feel better about, we've had some very interesting conversations. Ooh, shush. I'm making a video. My session on Tuesday was one of those ones. I walked in feeling like things are pretty okay right now. I don't really have much to report. Nothing much is going on. And so I just started talking about things. And she kind of just asked me, what is it that I need right now? I had an impromptu week off of work. So she said, yeah, this is a great time for you to kind of sit down with yourself and figure out what it is that you need. So what do you need right now? And I started listing off tasks. Like, I wanted to do a big deep clean of my apartment because I've been putting that off for a long time. And I wanted to maybe start stretching more and doing that kind of stuff. And she kind of stopped me and said, well, that's great, but you're trying to fill your time with tasks rather than things that you actually want or need. So what is it that you need or want? And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. I mean, I'd not really thought about it that way. I grew up always having something to do. Like, literally, my life planned out hour by hour, day by day, and I was just not really given much of a choice to do whatever I needed. And so when I actually had time to myself, I would just go ahead and do things. Now, the conversation dovetailed in many, many directions, but the fact of me being so busy and having my life planned out, other stuff that we've talked about in the past about my inability to control things because a lot of my life has been controlled by outward sources, and just kind of me as a person being slightly impulsive. Why was I restricted from doing or seeing a lot of things when I was a kid? Well, it's probably because I was more adventurous than I should have been, or for my own good, even though it wasn't maliciously adventurous or impulsive. Like, I was very independent. I'd go and explore. I would read stuff, I'd write stuff, I'd play, I'd talk to myself. As an only child, I had to entertain myself, so it just came out in very creative ways, I guess. And creative not just being artistic-wise, but in me deciding to, one evening, just go and explore by myself while my parents are still working through the construction area in the developing neighborhood just down the road. And then I started talking about, things that I don't even know where it came from, but seeing a lot of tarot-related stuff, witchcraft, paganism, those kind of belief systems, astrology, that people put sometimes more stock in them than they should, and me explaining that, well, I'm not really a spiritual person, but I'm intrigued by all of these things, and yet I don't look them up or delve into them further because although I'm not someone who really cares what other people think, there's something about the stigma to that I didn't even want to hold on to. Or didn't even want to touch. And, me talking about being curious about tarot cards and being curious about what, seeing other people's readings brings up for me, and thinking, oh, that's kind of cool, but I don't want to strap myself to the idea of, or the potential of no longer letting myself have my own free will because I'm basing my life off of what the cards tell me. And she told me that, you know, she herself has tarot cards that she hasn't used in many, many years, but the whole point of tarot is interpretation. You know, there's no one way to read the cards that you're given. It's about being in tune with yourself and figuring out what the messages that you might be seeing have to do with you and your life. Making you think more about the stuff, because a Seven of Wands on a card or the Hermit may have a certain connotation, but how can you maybe figure out how that connotation has something to do with you? You know, she continued to tell me that there's no reason why you shouldn't just try it. I mean, when you were a kid, were impulsive. You would just go ahead and do things because you wanted to. You didn't think twice about it. And in a response to her, I had an oh shit epiphany moment where I said, well, maybe the reason why I'm there's no reason for me to hold myself back from getting something as simple as tarot cards and just seeing what it does for me. Because if it's only doing something to help me get more in tune with myself and get more control, like it's actually going to help me get control over my own life. And maybe the reason why I'm afraid to engage with it is not because I'm afraid of what other people would think, but it's because I'm afraid of taking control. And I didn't say it in exactly that way, but it spilled out of my mouth in such a way that I kind of realized, oh shit. I have always been controlled in my life by someone or something. There's always been someone deciding what I can and can't do or what options I can choose from, rather than the world being open to me fully. And not that the times when I was controlled were in a malicious way. It's just people think that they know best for sometimes other people, and that's not always the case. And so when I finally had control, I kind of flipped and became overwhelmed by everything. And I definitely used to be a lot more creative a couple of years ago than I have been now. And there's something about where I'm at right now in life that I hesitate to just go ahead and do things because I can or because I want to. Like making videos, that's fallen off the wagon, and it's not because I haven't wanted to, it's just there's something about it that I'm holding myself back from, and I didn't realize it. And maybe, as I realized the other day, I'm afraid of taking control for myself. I'm afraid of doing things for myself. And thinking that I have a say in my own life, or feeling like I can get there with just myself, or whatever it is. I don't know yet. So, and I mean, it's true. So much about society nowadays is judgment. People judging one another for the stuff that just genuinely brings them joy. I am an odd person. I have my obsessions, but so is everyone. You know, I used to be absolutely obsessed with Harry Potter because at the time, that brought me something. It brought me some kind of peace or closure or inspiration or whatever. That's no longer strictly the thing I'm obsessed with. Right now I would say that I'm obsessed with fantasy-related things. You know, working at medieval times, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, all of these things bring me so much joy. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons because I just wanted to bring some kind of something fun back into my life. I was intrigued by the ability to create my own world, my own character, being someone else. But it's also brought me closer together with friends, or it will continue to do so, that I haven't really hung out with in a long time. It's making me actually hang out with friends, which I haven't been doing this year at all. And some people would think that playing a game like Dungeons and Dragons could be really weird. And arguably it is. But does that matter? No, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with anyone else if it brings me joy. And so same thing with even just exploring the possibilities of these things that I'm intrigued in. I don't have to believe in Norse mythology to get a kick out of learning about it. I don't have to become a pagan practicing person if that's not what I want to do, but it doesn't have to stop me from just being curious, reading books, figuring out how it works or how it helps people, learning from others. I mean, I've been following Wiccan, pagan, witch people on Tumblr for a long time now. And anytime I see information about, casting spells or protection or, ways to manifest, I find it fascinating because why not? If it gives some kind of ability to feel like you're going somewhere in life and getting more in tune with yourself, that's what matters. So needless to say, right after that appointment, I went onto Etsy, I went on the internet, I looked up all of the saved tarot decks that I had been looking at earlier in the summer that I decided not to buy because I kind of felt like, oh, that would mean that I'm that person. What person? I'm intrigued by it. And I bought a deck. I actually tried to buy 2, but I'm gonna space them out. And I'm just doing what makes me happy, or trying to make sure that I'm not just numbing myself. Like this year I've spent a lot of time watching things. I got into Critical Role, which I'd been wanting to do for years. That was a positive step in exactly what I'm talking about, this concept. But, I did it, and I'm watching it, I'm binging it, because I want to catch up, but at the same time, because I'm binging it, I'm doing nothing else. I'm wrapped up in these stories, and I love them. But it's also causing me to put other things aside that I want to do. Oh, I should do that. No, I'm watching Critical Role right now. No. I need to weigh these impulses. I need to act upon some more that I've stopped doing at whatever point in my life. And just go back to being that person that I used to be, that I loved. A lot of people don't like who they used to be when they were a kid. And I mean, it's not that you should aspire to be a child, of course, because you need to grow. You need to realize the things that you can only learn about when you're adults in order to protect yourself and become a stronger person. But it doesn't mean we have to lose those childish impulses. Like, who was it, Picasso, who said, it takes a great deal to learn how to be a child, or something like that. There's also those sayings about you die twice, when you stop being a child and then when you die, or something like that. I don't know. And I always thought that I was pretty carefree. I'm not really afraid of a whole lot, but in some ways I am afraid of a whole lot. In some ways I don't care what people think, but in other ways I do. For no other reason than my own fault. I'm getting wrapped up in these concepts that I've touted for a long time. That, just because I don't even know anyone who would judge me for doing the things that I want to do. Maybe I do, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect other people. If I want to do what I want to do, if I want to go get a set of tarot cards, if I want to learn about paganism and maybe try my hand figuring out if one of those kind of versions of spirituality works for me, then I should do it. It's more power to me. It's giving me more control over my life. And it's removing that weird control that I've now started letting into my life more and more that other people might have over me. Even if it's a faceless person. A group of people that I don't even know or don't even interact with. So yeah. And I think a part of making this video is trying to get me to take a step in that direction. Just take hold again. Start doing things. I felt stuck for so long. I mean, the pandemic, of course, has its own contribution to that. But when I was talking to my therapist about this and saying things like, it's not just the stuckness of the pandemic, it's the stuckness that I've created for myself and having two conflicting ideas of what I want that I can't have right now. So it means that I'm just gonna have to be where I am for now. I need to start unraveling those pieces of myself and learning more about me and about what I want, because I think I've stopped learning about me stop being in tune with myself. I mean, part of me making these videos for so many years was to just figure out who I am. I'd have a thought and I'd explore it on camera, and then I'd edit it and think about it, and then I'd post it and go back and watch it years later and be astounded by the opinions and the thoughts that came out of my brain at one point in time that I'd completely forgotten about. And there's a lot of that part of me that I've forgotten about, that I don't think is gone, but it needs to be retrained. I wrote today a little short piece of something. I did what I haven't done in years, based on the conversation that I had with my therapist the other day, remembering all these things, where I would put on a piece of music on repeat and just write that vibe. Write whatever came to mind. I did it. So yeah, epiphanies are a good thing. I literally, the words spilled out of my mouth, and I kind of sat there shocked with myself. And then the tears started welling up. And then my therapist told me how much of a heart-wrenching moment that was. A heart-warming moment to see that, because she didn't even have to say anything. I came to that conclusion on my own. Therapy's good, guys. You need to go to therapy. If you can, I suggest you do. I mean, people say that therapy's not for everyone. No, not every therapist is for every person. And that every single person on this planet could benefit from therapy. Because, I mean, what is better to learn about yourself than... Because of what I just said. I mean, I came to this massive realization about how I've been living my life because I was just talking. I came to that conclusion by myself, but it was in a space whereby the sole purpose is to get to intuit myself better, to understand where the problems that I'm facing are coming from. And I just think that that's so valuable. Yeah, sure, you talk to people when you have a problem with something, but it's those conversations that really take you somewhere that you never expect. On the days that you feel like there's not much to talk about, that sometimes reveal a lot more than those days where you are preoccupied by something that's really bothering you. Because in those moments, they're immediate. They're triggered by something, or someone, or an event. And that's all you can think about. If it's bothering you, it's because you have an immediate knee-jerk reaction to something that happened. But when you're just idle, that's when the good stuff happens. That's why they say that good things come to people who wait. That's why they say that, love will fall in your lap when you're not expecting it. It's because in those moments of idleness, of boredom or stuckness, or simply being, you can realize something about life. It can be really beautiful. You can just be sitting on a porch and it'll start to snow. Or you could be on a bus and you just happen to see a really, really interesting interaction between someone else on the bus, or just watch someone enjoying themselves. Anyway, I felt like this was something that I needed to share. That really was necessary. For myself. And for other people. For you, to whoever you are watching this, to maybe help learn something new about yourself. I mean, none of us are complete. None of us are perfect. But it is possible to work toward becoming more of the perfection that you want yourself to be. And that means making mistakes. That means still doing stuff that doesn't quite jive right. But it means accepting those moments when they happen and knowing how to move forward from it. So, I am definitely going to take some time to do what I need. And what I've realized I need is to get back to me. Get back to get back to that impulsiveness that I so love about myself when I allow myself to be so. The doing things, the trying, the curiosity, the creativity, the fun. And I'm gonna try and commit to that for my own sake and let whatever happens as a result of that happen. Because it'll be okay. I hope you're doing well in these trying times. I hope that your families are all safe, and if they're not, I'm sending you love and vibes for a positive closure. God knows I've faced some of that this year. And I wish you well until the next time I see you. All right. Well, bye.
Hello, my old heart. How have you been? Are you still there inside my chest?